Hello, I'm so excited about this panel. We are diving into queer storytelling in television. We're looking at some of the most exciting projects, I think, from the last couple of years. So I'm going to introduce our panel. So we have Antonia Belcher, who frankly has lived 1,000 incredible lives. Please do look her up. I'm sorry, that's a really embarrassing intro, but she is incredible. And she's here today in the capacity of the Antonia and Andrea Belcher Trans Fund. We've also got Daniel Edwards, who is a casting director for shows such as Heartstopper, don't worry, we will be diving into that. And we've got Hannah Jarrett-Scott, who is from the fantastic BBC series Float. We've also got someone else, but do you know what? I think somebody wants to introduce you specially, so we might have a little video to come up instead.
Hi there, and welcome to the OKRE Summit. I believe you have one of my favourite human beings in the house, Mr. David Brinley, who's going to be chatting to you about I Kissed a Boy. So this is a really proud moment to make this TV show, to be able to host it. UK's first ever gay dating show. It's now award-winning. We're so proud of it. How we get to share the stories of these amazing guys. The overwhelming response from the show, from my friends in the community and fans of the show, were that they were so happy to be able to see themselves on TV, and friends that they have, to see people like them on TV telling real stories, that it wasn't in a drama, it wasn't sensationalized. They were now part of reality TV, guys who are looking to find love with another guy, and seeing themselves on TV in a reality show made a great difference to, their visibility, their acceptance. It sparked conversation, not only between the guys in the community, but their family, their friends, their allies. We're now going to be doing it for the girls. So we're about to launch I Kissed a Girl. We're so excited. I think it's groundbreaking on a completely different level. The girls have had not a lot of visibility. It was wild on set, seeing these women who love women, who are ready to date in their search for love, and being so open and sharing their stories. I think it's going to whip up a frenzy when it is released. So please enjoy your time at the OKRE Summit.
That's both very embarrassing, but I can go to gay heaven very happy now.
He's pretending it's embarrassing, but he refused to come today unless we had Danny Minogue introduce him.
It's on my rider.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as I said, I'm really excited to do this panel because I think it's going to be a really fun one, a really joyful one. It's a celebration of some of the most exciting, authentic, real queer storytelling that we've had in television for a while. But I'm going to start on kind of a bit of a downer. Daniel, I'm going to come to you. Sorry to jump to you immediately.
No
on
worries.
that. I want to talk about kind of what we've seen prior to this point in television, because of course for a long time queer storytelling came with so many caveats and limitations, whether that's budget, whether it's scheduling, whether it's resources, whether it's the press attention given to it after a production is launched. So what do you think has changed to see some of the storytelling that we see now, and what do we still need in the future?
Sadly, I don't think much has changed. I noticed that Queer as Folk is 25 years old this year, and that was groundbreaking. That felt like a huge shift. I wasn't in casting then. I was a sad and pathetic actor, just desperate for attention. But it was, I think everybody, queer or non-queer, just sat with their mouths open. If anybody is too young to remember when that aired, it's just extraordinarily advanced, and also I don't know what their budget was, but it looked rich, and obviously Russell T Davies, the scripts were astonishing, but it was just a beautiful. It really pissed off a lot of right-wing wankers, but there you go. Who cares? But oddly, apart from in America, I haven't seen. You'd think that would be the sort of the grounding, and then it would go boom, 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 boom. But it really hasn't. I can't really think. There's been some wonderful queer-centric stories that have, pushed the boat out. But 25 years on, Heartstopper felt like something new, but actually it should feel like something old at this stage. Why is it, and then you look in America, Fellow Traveller, that clearly had a huge budget. We don't. I understand we're a small country and our budgets are shit, and they're getting shitter. But I never quite understand why. I have to be very careful so I get employed again. Why networks and commissioning teams can't see that if you just give a little bit of extra money to a story, it can go wider, it can go outside of the echo chamber and spread around the world like Queer as Folk did. You get things, incredible shows, Russell T Davies again, you know, It's a Sin, that's wonderful, but you could see that the budget was probably 50p and a packet of fags. So you just go, why? Why? And it's not just about making something look like Dallas or Dynasty, that's really showing my age, but it's not just the project itself while shooting, it's also the post-production. I was looking at how, you know, Netflix has, you know, with Heartstopper, they are all over social media. If you look at something like, I mean, it is a queer story, Baby Reindeer, that is, there's not a single famous person in that show, but everybody's talking about it because Netflix have saturated it across social media, and that takes money. So when I talk about budgets being given, it's not just in the shooting, it's post. It's getting everyone talking, everybody, you know, water cooler moment. Oh my God, have you seen Baby Reindeer? I don't even know what that is. Scroll. I'm on my Instagram feed and I go down rabbit holes on YouTube, welcome to my world, and it's literally bam, 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 bam. So I go, why aren't queer stories, all queer stories that people feel a little bit awkward about telling, saturated through social media? Why isn't money given for that post-conversation, so that everybody, there's no point us talking within an echo chamber, there really isn't. We know the shit that we have to go through, we know what the shit is. It's the people who don't think there is shit that need to know about the shit. Oh my God, I'm trying to be profound and I'm failing miserably.
Has anyone got a bleeper? I don't.
Hashtag the shit. So that I get very, very beady, as you can tell, and anybody who knows me, I've got a real opinionated mouth. But actually, I shouldn't be sitting on a panel in 2024 talking about what we're not doing, for fuck's sake. 25 years ago, it's, you know, Queer as Folk. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
I mean, what a way to start.
Sorry,
what a way to
everybody,
kick
for
things
my
off.
language.
No, thank you. I mean, David, let's talk about I Kissed a Boy. And of course, today we've just seen all the contestants for I Kissed a Girl. Very exciting. I can't wait. Now, this was, I think, really the first truly authentic queer reality TV show. You know, we love Love Island, we love Maths, you know, there's a big appetite for those kind of shows, and yet we have never seen a show that truly represented what it is to be a queer person, what it is to date in the queer community, and this was it. You know, I think the reaction was incredible. So talk to me a little bit about, you know, where the idea came from, how you made it, and more importantly, how you made it authentic.
I mean, so many of you in this room will know, but, you know, every television production company up and down the country, and there are hundreds, all have development teams all coming in every morning trying to work out what television needs and what might get commissioned. And we were doing a similar thing, and you know, we make a whole range of programs from very serious documentaries through to really entertaining reality. And the one question that we asked of ourselves and of the development team was, what is the cast that we haven't seen on television in a reality show? And let's try and start there and work out if we can make something that feels unique. And it was kind of extraordinary. It was 2022, to your point, Daniel, that we alighted on the fact that there hadn't been a gay cast in a reality show, a solely gay cast in a reality show, which was kind of shocking to all of us. And so we set about, the next really important moment, I think, was saying, well, let's try and create a format from the ground up that is for a queer cast, not try and put a queer cast through a straight format in inverted commas, because that has happened in various countries. There are versions of The Bachelor, you know, in Germany called Finding Prince Charming, but essentially that gay cast is going through a show that has been built not for them. And so yeah, from the very start, we set about saying, trying to devise a format which could only be for a queer cast, and And also, really importantly, from the very start, and with the brilliant commissioners, I have to say, at the BBC, who were completely on board and thought that it was a no-brainer right from the moment that we took it to them, we built into the format space for conversation in a way that quite a lot of reality shows would be action, cliffhanger. Whereas what we wanted to do was say, yeah, there'll be some action. It'll be quite explosive at top, but then we actually built in moments for conversations that you wouldn't hear on reality television. So, we take 5 minutes, in the middle of a big reality show to talk about what it was like growing up in Northern Ireland and coming out as a gay man, or to talk to your parents about coming out, or what it felt like at school, or body image. All of those things which you might get a snippet of in other television, whether that's soaps or reality or other dating formats or documentaries. But here it was exclusively a queer cast talking about those things. And I remember when we went on to film it for the first time, and given that we'd devised the show, you'd have thought this would have been obvious to us. But what was extraordinary when we were there and looking at the gallery of 40-odd cameras was realising that you were bouncing from one story about a queer contributor to another story about a queer contributor to another story about a queer contributor. So it wasn't tokenism, it was the whole show. And so that felt incredibly exciting to us.
I think that's one of the things I loved about I Kissed a Boy is the conversations from the contributors. They felt like stories we didn't get to hear, because often we get such broad strokes, I think, in queer storytelling. And actually this felt like diving into the minutiae of what it is to be a queer person, which I think is something we also see in Float, which is, of course, your series, Hannah. And it is, I cannot recommend it enough. If you have not seen it, it's absolutely fantastic, real, authentic, messy, just a gorgeous show. Sorry to gush, but honestly, truly, it's fantastic. And of course, it's a show that you might look at and think, oh, this is another victim of the limitations placed on queer storytelling, because each episode is about 10 minutes long. I think it's a microdrama is the name that it's been given. When actually, for me, what it felt like is that it was trying to find queer audiences where they live. It's for the TikTok generation. It's for a younger generation of the queer community. And so I'm interested in how it feels for you being on this show, because I think it's touched a lot of people. It's been very impactful. Did it feel like it was groundbreaking when you were making it?
Yeah, it was just kind of what you've been saying there. I think it felt the same for me in that growing up in Scotland, well, in the UK, as a young gay girl who came out at 15, there was nothing on the telly that I could see that was joyful and like positive and reflected what it felt to be gay. So, we loved Sugar Rush and, we loved...
Didn't we?
But it was pretty trippy, And actually what I wanted to see was a joyous thing about what it is to be gay. And I didn't think that it would take me at the age of 32 to play the thing that I wanted to see. That is mental to me. But we did it. And, the last thing that came out of BBC Scotland that had a gay female-led narrative was Lip Service in 2010.
No.
So I was 19 then, and I would have loved to have, been able to have seen something that was like that for the next decade of my life, but no, not to be. But yeah, so for me it was like an absolute joy to be on set with queer actors, also queer members of crew, and I think we spoke about that on Zoom the other day about authenticity and how do we make shows authentic, and I think it's not just about the face of it, it's about the team, and our producer Bjorn is a gay man, and the grip guy was a gay man, and like he had sort of had the opposite experience of Colette in that he was in a relationship with a woman and realised that it wasn't right and had to sort of leave that relationship even though he loved her very much. And so he was sitting, filming the scene thinking, bloody hell, that's my life as well, even though I'm a gay guy. So it touches lots of people in different ways. But yeah, I just felt, I was absolutely buzzing. I just had the absolute best time. And that's Jess Hardwick, legend. But yeah, we met in the room in the chemistry test. We didn't know each other before. And we met and we got on really well. And now she's taking the photos for my wedding.
Oh, wow.
I love that. Love that.
She's my best friend now. So, yeah, because we filmed it over 4 years, so even though it's just 10 minutes. But, yeah, the 10-minute episode thing I think is really interesting because, obviously, yeah, it is for a young queer adult audience, and I think it was commissioned as a digital commission, so it's all on iPlayer. It wasn't televised, so you can catch both series on iPlayer. Things get lost on iPlayer, so, and again, it's going back to what you said, Daniel, about what happens after it's out, like who's pushing it. And at the moment, it's really just Black Camel, who produced it, BBC Scotland, and the actors that are pushing it, and there's been some media attention, which I think is how you got in touch. But, kids don't read the newspaper. We need to get it on the social media, and, so I think, I think what's great about Float is it's 10-minute episodes and you can watch it. You can watch it straight through, if you've got a smartphone or whatever, you can watch it in an hour on a train journey. So that's pretty cool.
No excuse. I expect everybody here to watch it. Antonia, let's talk about your work, because something that you do is working with lots and lots of different queer charities, queer communities. I think what you have is really excellent outreach and a great kind of on-the-ground experience of when we're talking about these shows, it's often very high level, it's conceptual, it's what we wanted to achieve with them. And you get to see what the effect is on real-life people living their real lives, how that representation affects them. So talk to us about how shows like this make a difference, and also what the effect of bad representation is.
Yes. So I raise money in the UK, and we then send that money abroad, and we send it to parts of the world where it's hardest to be trans. I cannot get access to those places where it's criminalised, but most people won't realise that many parts of the world it's not criminalised legally, but societally, and the way governments and jurisdictions treat their transgender populations, it may as well be criminalised because it is that bad. I am aware that a lot of obviously streamed content now can be seen around the world, even in criminalised places, but obviously I can only talk to those that I work with, and I'm working in from the Caribbean region through to the Tonga Pacific Asia region, to northern parts of South America, to Lebanon, to India, to the Balkan Republic countries, and to Czech Republic itself. And any authentic and I would like to say any programming that is educational will be welcomed, because it's for most trans people, they just want to have a platform to be able to talk about the fact they're normal. They just want to lead a normal life. They're no different to everyone else. They just want to be authentic. So if they can see that representation in media, it's obviously reassuring. But equally, if it can be done in a way where it's educational, so it's actually imbibing knowledge and imparting knowledge, then that's got to be a great thing. To the extent that the people I meet around the world, to the extent to which they're seeing it, I can't necessarily say. But it's interesting sort of hearing some of the things that have been said today, like Netflix having a Black Lives Matter archive constantly available. Do we ever have anything that sort of does that on an LGBT front? I know we get to Pride and all of a sudden the TV's, Netflix, even BBC has a weekend of LGBT content, but it all disappears the rest of the year, I believe. And some of the work I do in the States with a charity called the Trevor Project, I mean, they've got great content, and they operate a crisis prevention service, an avoidance of death by suicide within under 25 LGBT youth. But the idea that they could link with organisations like Spotify and Netflix and have constant content, because there is a lot of good educational material out there. And when I'm not just talking about those that are LGBTQI+, I'm talking about their family. I'm talking about their friends who are affected when they say they're coming out. So, those sort of being able to do that has got to be a massive advantage, and that's where I think media can be really powerful, having the availability of it all the time.
We've touched on their kind of what representation looks like, what it means to these communities. But I think, Daniel, I want to come to you on something that's quite interesting, which is representation comes at a cost sometimes for the people who are the face of it. I think something we see is that as we've seen in shows like Heartstopper, it suddenly thrusts often very young people into the spotlight to be the face of something that we have now termed a debate or an issue, which is, ludicrous, but nonetheless, they are thrust out there. So what is our duty of care to them? How do we still platform these stories but protect the people who become the face of them?
I found I was more nervous pre-casting of Heartstopper. Oddly, the pandemic started around the same time, so it was an added layer of fear. But in my head, I just immediately hear Katie Hopkins and Lawrence Fox and the Daily fucking Mail, and I just thought, this is a TV show about children. I just see them marrying, paedophiles, children, ugh, it's disgusting. And I thought, we are searching for young people, young queer people, for the representation to the authenticity of the show on a Netflix show. So they are going to be thrust into the limelight, and there's going to be a spotlight. How do we protect? And I think what I had to do is, first of all, get over my own fears from my own life story. And from the onset, the audition process, myself and my team, before we presented anybody, everything was online at that time. It feels like we're talking about 1974 or something now. Did it ever happen? Did we actually have a pandemic? But the most important thing for me, and something I said to Seesaw and Netflix, I have to talk to these young people. I have to use my ability. I say this all the time, I'm academically thick as shit, but I'm perceptive when it comes to human beings. So I have a responsibility as a casting director to talk to young people to see if they are ready. I can't, I'm not a psychologist, I can't fully sanction somebody's mental health on a long-term basis, but I get a sense immediately if a young actor is ready to take what could either be very, very positive, which also has its fair share of issues, to the negative. So what we did, much to our own emotional trauma, is chat to every young person that we asked to tape. We chatted via email. Then everybody that we started to recall, we would do Zoom chats with them and just ask them about themselves. It's very telling. It was very telling in the emails. We still to this day get emails from around the world, which is really hard, from a 14-year-old from Kansas who is about to kill themselves because they are trans, and being in Heartstopper would stop them from killing themselves. How am I supposed to respond to that? I have a responsibility, but I can't respond at that level. That's every day. This is every day. And every time the show, we've got season 3 coming out this year, the wave will come again. So I can only take that responsibility so far. Netflix has a responsibility, Seesaw has a responsibility. So anyway, I'll speed up. So I had to go with my gut and my heart and know, okay, this is somebody who I believe, and also that generation are so savvy. They are so savvy on social media. Yasmin Finney, it's like talking to a 75-year-old who has been around the world in many lives, and Kit Connor, Joe Locke, Will Gow, all of them just were strident in their socio-political views, and you realize that actually it's the generation behind, the generation who didn't vote Brexit. Don't get me started on that bloody disaster.
Do you not have time?
Oh my God. And you go, oh my God, it's not for me to patronize you and go, oh, are you going to be all right, love? It's not that. It's actually, they're coming to me going, this is fine. I want to tell this story. I'm a really good actor and I want the world to see me. I want to have a voice. So it's those, from a casting point of view, you go, right, okay, I need now to see if you can act. Yes, you can. Brilliant. And I think you're going to be able to look after yourself with the support of the production company, with the support of the network. And we have a team of young people, cast of young people from many different backgrounds who I feel so incredibly proud of, But I still get worried for them. You know, you look at the Kit Connor situation, being forced on Twitter to come out and declare his sexuality. He was 18. He's 18. Give the boy a break. Anyway, so I think we have a responsibility, but we also have to look at performers and ask, how do you feel about this? If there is a socio-political bent in the narrative, how are you feeling? I think people forget to do that. I think networks forget to do that. They always forget to ask the actor, how do you feel about that part? How would you feel if you were playing that? Let's have a conversation about that. And I think people are so scared of the conversation, they forget to ask for a conversation. Oh my God, I'm being profound again. Have you seen that? That's great. Hashtag. So yes, I have a responsibility, but it's always about asking and getting a sense of that. And if I go with my gut and my heart, 9 times out of 10, I'm right. And these are the young actors who can, yes, they're always going to be fuck-ups. And yes, you know, as in life, as in human beings across the board. But give people a voice, give actors, performers a voice, give directors a voice, writers a voice, producers a voice, who want to tell queer stories. And outside of the queer community, listen to them first. Don't shut us down. Listen. And send us on our way.
Something you touched on there is that generational divide. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll be very quick. But one of the things I think we all talked about in our kind of preparation for this panel was how difficult it is to represent the queer community in its totality in any one show. We're an incredibly multifaceted community. Somebody who is trans at 18 will be very different. And not to paraphrase you, because I'm so sorry we're running out of time, but you talked about how your experience as a trans woman will be very different now to a younger person. And that's perhaps not a story that you sometimes see. If you wanted to quickly jump in on that.
Yes, I don't believe I've ever seen any representation on TV film that would represent me. And I certainly, it's a bit like what Hassan said this morning. Most trans stories are either at the torrid end, where media, whatever form of media it is actually trying to portray a story where if you're trans, you're doomed, your life is going to be a wreck. Or it's a celebrity, Caitlyn Jenner type thing, which is all around influence basing. And it's not reality. And so Joe Public out there tends to think, well, if you're trans, you're either doomed or you're going to be, you know, leading a princess life, which is not real. So they have a very they have a screwed up perception of what trans people are. And most trans storytelling does tend to sort of focus on the young. And that's a proper and correct thing, because, you know, we've opened the door to, you know, over the last 20, I mean, it's a shocking statistic, but when you think 2017, UK was number 1 in the European Equality Index for LGBTQI purposes. Today, it's number 17. You know, we've gone back massively in a short space of time. Some countries have leapfrogged us, granted, but that's good progression, and we should celebrate that. But for me, I consider myself the happiest, luckiest trans person that's ever existed. And, you know, I'm still with my wife. We've been married 43 years. She transitioned in her own way to continue life with me. I have 3 adult children who are my greatest supporters. I have 2 grandchildren. They've got 3 nannies and 1 granddad, and that's normal for them. You know, but I don't see any stories out there that want to say, look, this is wonderful. This is just life. It doesn't matter what you think about yourself in terms of your gender identity. You know, I've always known that I'm a girl, and I'm not trying to convince other people to believe that. I just ask them to accept that that's me. Yes. And they're the stories that I think need telling. And, you know, in this day and age, I mean, the LGBT communities are under attack. And if, you know, the trans is the smallest and the most vulnerable part of this community, and if they successfully annihilate it, which is what the intent with certain right-wing parts of the world are, it is a threat on the rest of the community, for sure. So, yeah.
There was a question. There was a question earlier which said, but what about when all those stories have been told?
Yes.
And like, guess what? We haven't even started. Exactly. We're talking about the first reality show. We're talking about the first show to come out of BBC Scotland in 15 years. We're talking about the first since Queer as Folk. And it's incumbent on all of us to continue to tell those stories and to tell more and more and more of those stories, because the audience is there for them. So that's not an excuse, certainly. And I feel like, you know, everyone is doing their bit to sort of to start that ball rolling, but we're only at the start of that journey, and there are a hell of a lot more stories to tell, I think.
Absolutely. I'm just going to super quickly, I know, I'm so sorry. One quick last question, because Hannah, the music from Float, this was such a clever way to, you know, as we talked about, representing the kind of intersectionality and the totality of the queer community, and the music in Float does it really cleverly, I think, doesn't it?
So. They were very keen to have Scottish queer artists, so they got quite a wide spectrum. They had young, new, non-binary artists. They had my music in it, which was amazing, and then they had Horse's music, who's like, you know, in her 50s, absolute lesbian icon of Scotland. So it's just like a little nod to the other generations. I think that is really important.
Yeah, I just want to get that, like, such a thoughtful, clever way to do it. But a huge thank you to my fantastic panel, Antonia, David, Daniel, and Hannah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.